Welcome everybody to the podcast. This is Conversing Over Drinks with your host Cedric Turner, and today we have a special guest all the way from Australia. We have been doing a lot of international guests here lately. It has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed all of them. Her name is Soph Stafford. She is a pop culture tragic and a vintage country music fan who has manifested a heck of a life. She's traveled the world, met celebrities, drinks tea like a mad woman, and has a shameless crush on Tom Selleck. I think it has to do with the mustache. Maybe she can answer that for me. She is also the chair of an independent school and is an energy alchemist, connector, and I said I was going to struggle with this word, and I'm going to struggle with it. How do you say it?
Akashic.
Akashic.
Akashic Records.
Akashic Records practitioner who specializes in spirit guides and energetic alignment. She can support you and your shifts for yourself, your home, and your pets. And this is going to be a fun episode about music for all my listeners who listen to the podcast religiously or just catch it every now and again. You understand my love and passion for music. So this is going to be a very fun episode. I always like to hear about other people's love and passion for the music. So if you want to introduce yourself and just say hello to everybody, go ahead.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm so excited to get to speak with you about music, which is one of my all-time favorite topics.
Oh yeah, music is worldwide. It's such a great thing. Can you tell my listeners where you're from in Australia?
Yeah, so I'm from Melbourne, so down south, right at the southern tip. So Melbourne, Victoria, or as the traditional owners of the land call it, Naarm.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. And I actually work with somebody who's from Australia, so I did not know that.
Cool.
Yeah. So just jumping into the episode, our first question is: what is your favorite genre of music, and who is your all-time favorite artist?
I found it so hard to just think of one all-time favorite artist, so I've cheated a little bit. I've got a favorite vintage country artist, Americana, Willie Nelson,
Okay.
and I love Willie for lots of reasons, not just his music.
Yeah.
And then my second would be under, I guess, the soul kind of category, and that's Sam Cooke.
Okay. Yeah. Sam and Willie are great choices. Being a Southern boy, being from Oklahoma, we listen to a lot of Willie Nelson. But then also being raised by very soulful grandparents, I listen to a lot of Sam Cooke. And so it's great. It's great. My favorite genre would have to be R&B and soul. Like I grew up on that. It's what I love. It's what I listen to religiously. But I also have a very soft spot in my heart for country. I grew up in the country, so I love listening to country music. Willie is now Willie's in my top five, but he's not my favorite. George Strait is
Oh,
definitely
who's your favorite? Oh,
George
nice.
Strait's definitely my favorite. George Strait or Jorge. He's my favorite. I love George. And then soul, I love Sam Cooke. He was taken from us too soon. He has so much left to do with his music. But my favorite soul artist is actually a group, and it's the Temptations. I was born and
Oh.
raised on the Temptations. I will go to my grave with Temptations. They are my group. I love them. So why do you love Willie Nelson?
Um, So, firstly, I grew up listening to Willie Nelson because my mum is a huge Willie Nelson fan, and I actually didn't like him growing up. He just didn't hit my ear right. Like, he has a
Yeah,
very unique sound. But as I got older, I started to appreciate his jazz stuff, like his Stardust album, which is
yeah,
American standards. And I started to just hear different inflections in his voice. So it wasn't really until I was in my 30s that I really started liking him. And it was because I went to a concert in Nashville and it was a tribute to Merle Haggard.
mm,
And Willie was the headliner and he came out towards the end of the night. And from the first note he sang, I just found myself getting really emotional and really excited to see him. And it's like in that moment, I just fell in love with his sound. And he's just a cool dude, right? Like he just he's so cool. He's 91 years old, he's still touring. He has the most amazing outlook on life, which is why I think I like him so much. He's faced lots of adversity in his 91 years, and he does it with good humor and in a really grounded way. And so I just really admire who he is as a person.
Yeah, Willie's a great person. Like he's a great artist. He's very much incorporated in black culture because of his extracurricular activities that he
Mhm.
does. So like a lot of it cracks me up in black culture. A lot of black culture doesn't really listen to country music, but they know Willie Nelson and they know they know Willie because of all of his extra stuff. But he's a great guy.
I know
So
he and Snoop are pretty tight.
yeah, it was Snoop because of the extracurricular stuff.
Yeah.
But getting to your soul pick, why Sam Cooke?
Oh, there's just something so magical about his voice. It's almost like he can sing in colors, you know?
Yeah,
It's just so beautiful and it just hits straight to the heart. And when you hear him sing love songs, he means it. You can feel it. You can feel the
yeah,
emotion that comes through, and it's just deep.
yeah. Sam is he was very talented. He was a very talented man. And he meant so much to the movement at that time, and
Mm.
it was very sad to lose him at such a young age. But he was a very special artist. Now, you say you went to Nashville to see the tribute to Mel Haggard. What countries have you traveled to? What celebrities have you met? Like what's going on? You just decided to do this one day?
Well, a few years ago, my friend and I got into entering sweepstakes, so entering competitions. And we've both been lucky enough to actually win lots of celebrity meet and greets.
Oh
And
wow.
so a few years ago, we were lucky enough to be in the audience of the American Music Awards. So
Wow.
sitting front row right up against all the celebs that were there. So got to meet lots of really cool people. Like I got to meet Smokey Robinson and Lionel
So
Richie.
smoky.
So some old school people,
Yeah,
but also, like the people who were big at the time. So like Bieber and Selena Gomez and Bruno Mars and things like that. So it was just a really cool, fun experience. And that kind of got me hooked. And since then, I've just manifested all these experiences where I've managed to bump into celebrities.
yeah,
Um, and, even things like having a backstage sound check meet and greet with Backstreet Boys. Because I do
yeah.
have a soft spot for boy bands.
Oh yeah.
Love me a boy band.
And the Backstreet Boys, I mean, they have they have one of the greatest songs in pop culture with I Want It That Way. And so
Yeah.
I mean I've listened to that song so much because of as being a teacher, my students love it for some reason, even though it came out when I was their age. So I'm like, I don't understand that. But I can't listen to it the same ever since Brooklyn Nine when when they did it in the jail line and he was just I can't listen to it the same because every time it gets to that part, like I see that scene and I just start laughing. And I'm just like, that was one of the greatest television scenes I've ever seen.
It's
He's
perfection. It's
well,
absolute
no,
perfection.
it's like in number five. It's like, come on, man. Oh man, that's good stuff. So you never answered my question about the mustache with Tom Selleck. Is that the
Oh,
second?
it's the mustache, it's the dimples, it's the shoulders, it's the
Tom,
smile, it's everything.
Tom Selleck. I was like, Tom Selleck had that 70 porn stash to a T.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
he could pull it off. Like not a lot of people could pull off that 70s porn stash and be taken seriously. But Tom pulled it
Especially
off.
wearing short shorts.
Yeah, Tom pulled it off. It was crazy. Like I was a huge fan of Tom Selleck, and then I became a bigger fan of him when he was on Friends. because it was you got to see the comedy side of him, and I was like, I haven't seen this side of Tom, so that was hilarious to see that side. And then he had a season where he had shaved the mustache, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, come on,
I
man.
know, bald lip. I'm not about
Yes,
that.
it's your selling point, man. Like that's what people
Yeah.
know you for. Can't let that go. All right, well, let's jump into our next question. What are your top 10 songs and why?
Oh my gosh, this was so hard. Only picking 10 songs was really, really hard. So I
Yeah,
thought I'd start at the top with my two favorite artists. And so my first song is Cupid by Sam Cooke, because it just oozes sweetness. Like,
yeah,
it is just romance in 3.5 minutes. It's absolutely incredible. And it doesn't matter how many times I listen to it, it just hits me right in the feelings and I love it.
it's understandable. Yeah. Oh, you can keep going.
Yeah, it's just smooth and I love it. And one of my favorite things to do is when I'm cooking dinner and no one's home, I might pour
Yeah.
myself a glass of something nice and just put on some Sam Cooke. And it makes cooking so much more fun. I'm just singing to my ingredients and putting the love in there.
So that's your favorite song.
I think so. It was hard to pick. I would say I've got maybe two favorite songs, and
Yeah.
that's one. And the second one is Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain by Willie Nelson. And
Okay.
it's totally different. They couldn't be more different songs. Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain is all about heartbreak and sadness. And it's this really stripped back, almost acoustic song. And it's
Yeah.
very raw, but there's something so powerful about it. And when I hear it, it just gives me the lump in the throat.
Yeah.
I feel all the sad feelings, but it's really beautiful.
Yeah. That's a good list. I was like, it's a good song. It's a very good song. And that's two. So you still got eight more.
I've still got a few more to go. So my third song is Respect by Otis Redding.
Yeah.
And obviously we all know Aretha sang Respect, but Otis actually recorded it first.
Yeah. A lot of people
And
don't know that. A lot of people
yeah,
don't know that Otis wrote that song. Like
yeah,
they don't know that. So
yeah.
that's nice to see that you did your music history. That's good stuff. Yeah.
And I mean, Aretha did a beautiful homage to the Otis song, but man, Otis put a different spin on it. Like,
Yeah.
it was so different. And it just it's fierce, it's fun, it's authentic,
Yeah.
and it's so cool to dance to. Like, if
Yeah.
you need a little bit of like a pump up and you just need to feel good about yourself, that's the song.
And it's so funny to me because I being born and raised by women, I love women. Uh, I've always been a big fan of activists and women's rights and all that stuff. And it cracked me up because one of my female friends, she was like, "We have one of the greatest songs ever, and it's Respect by Aretha Franklin." I was like, "Yeah, it is a great song." She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "It was written by Otis Redding." She was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." So it was not written for women. That was written by Otis. And it was written, I was like, it was written for women, but it was written the reverse way. I was like, Otis was saying it to a woman. He was saying, "Respect me." So she was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm sorry." I was like, "I hate to burst that bubble, but that is what it." I was like, "That's what that song was meant for."
And I love both versions of the song.
Uh,
And I think what you can do is you can know that there's these two amazing takes on the song that exist and just be the person that's singing it, right? Take the
oh yeah,
gender out of it and just be like,
yeah,
respect. And it's super powerful. And you cannot listen to that song and not get into the groove of it. It's impossible.
yeah. It's a great song. Yeah,
It's an amazing song. So, my next song is Tired of Being Alone by Al Green, Reverend Al Green. Again, super duper soulful, right? And it was
yeah,
hard to even just pick an Al Green song that's my favorite Al Green song because I love him.
yeah. Man, I've sang "Tired of Being Alone" at karaoke too many times. And that is
It's such a good song.
I was like, I knew every word to that song when I was like 6. Oh shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
because you were raised right. Yeah.
oh man. It was
Yeah.
that was the song.
My husband got me for Christmas a couple of years ago, our green on vinyl,
Yeah,
because we got ourselves a record player a few years ago, and I just love putting it on a Saturday night. It is just such amazing, soulful, chill music. Like, again, you cannot hear that music and not be put in a certain state of mind. Like, it's
yeah.
just good music.
Owl is special. He's very special. Yeah.
So smooth. And
Yeah.
then for my next song, totally different. I'm throwing back to when
Yeah.
I was younger, and
Yeah.
I had to put some Madonna in my top 10 because she just was such a big part of my life when I was younger. She was cool.
Understandable.
Like,
Yeah.
you talk about fearless females, Madonna is it, right? She's
Yeah.
just so authentic and she's so unashamed of being who she is. And the Like a Prayer video, I remember, was quite controversial when it came out. It certainly ruffled some feathers,
Yeah.
but you hear that big choir sound behind her and the funkiness. You can't help but dance and sing along. It's just, it takes me straight back to that moment in time when I very first saw that video. And I still love it. Doesn't matter how many times I hear it.
That's understandable. We all have songs like that that take us back to our childhood. I might catch a lot of slack for this from my listeners and maybe from you, but I think I've listened to one Madonna song ever. Like, yeah,
Oh my gosh, that's so
yeah,
exciting because it means you get to discover her.
maybe. I was like, it just never like caught my ear. It just was never what I was listening for. Like maybe, like I've said that a lot. Like I've always been open to any type of music, but if it doesn't catch my ear after a couple songs, I'm like, yeah, it's nah.
Hey, I'm the same. I'm exactly the same. So I went to see Madonna in March in Phoenix. We were over in the States, and I was a little nervous. I'd heard some bad reviews about her tour, and I knew that she was prone to going on stage late. So I went in there with pretty low expectations, and I was actually blown away. One of the things that struck me most about her concert was that the whole crowd was with her the whole time. You didn't see people getting up and buying drinks or going to the restroom or anything. People were just glued to the show for the entire show from woe to go. And she took you on this amazing musical journey across her career because she's been
Yeah,
around a really long time. And it was solid. It was really impressive and probably one of the most fun shows I've seen in my life. And I have easily been to hundreds of concerts.
that's good. That's good. Like that's another thing. Like I can just tell from the conversation you're an extrovert, and so you like all that stuff. Me being introverted, like I don't can't do it.
I'm so
I get
introverted. I am
yeah,
such an introvert.
how if you can go to concerts. Like I don't like being around people at all. I could not stand being around hundreds of people for 2 hours. Like
In any other setting, I don't like it. I don't even like going to the movies. I
yeah,
definitely am a recharge at home kind of person, but
yeah,
I love music so much. And there's something so special about hearing it performed live
yeah,
and seeing the artist doing their thing that I kind of have to go into my little zone where
yeah,
I just I'm just staying in my own lane and just enjoying the show because no, I don't like big crowds either. But I even went to a music festival a few years ago where there was 100,000 people and we were right up the front
couldn't be
because
me.
that's how much I love it.
Yeah, could not be me. Like I tell my buddies all the time, I'm like they they say it's because I'm bougie. I say it's because I don't like people. Because whenever we go somewhere, I'm always like, "Hey, man, we gotta get a suite where we're like away from people. Like I can experience it with y'all, like because we cool. But I was like, I can't be around everybody else. I was like, I'll get so
I
upset.
totally get it. don't sit me in a table in the middle of the restaurant. Tuck
Yeah,
me away in a corner. I want my back to the wall. I want to be able to see everything. I am totally introverted, but I guess I have this
yeah,
switch that I can turn on and off just for live music.
yeah. Because it's like next month. Next month, I'm going to the WWE is coming to Tokyo, and so I'm going down to Tokyo to watch the event. And I'm like, my buddy was like, "Hey," he's like, "It's gonna be a lot of people." He's like, "You you gonna be cool with that?" I was like, "Bro, my seat is up." I was like, "It's up high on the second deck," and I was like, "It is secluded away." I was like, "There only be like two people next to me." I was like, "So I'm fine." And I was like, and plus, I was like, I was like, "It's Japan." I was like, "Japanese people ain't." I was like, "They ain't gonna be grabbing on you and pushing on you." I was like, "They're gonna be very respectful." I was like, so. I was like, I'm cool. I'm cool being in crowds with Japanese people because they're. It seems like the whole country is introverted. They're just like, hey, yeah, yeah, don't touch me, like, like get away.
Yeah, and it's so funny you should say that because my husband and I tend to like going to concerts in the States much more than we like going to concerts in Australia because we find American audiences easier to handle than local
Yeah,
audiences here.
that's crazy. I don't. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't. I don't know. I guess I've only been to a few American like concerts. Being an American and like it's just. But I was like, you guys are going to concerts for like Willie and Madonna and
Yeah.
stuff. I'm going to concert for like Snoop and and and
Well, it's
a whole
funny you
bunch
should say that.
of rap stuff. So R&B people. So
I went to see, The Temptations and the Four
yeah,
Tops in North Carolina,
yeah,
and I went to Willie Nelson's 90th birthday show at the Hollywood Bowl in LA,
mm,
and Snoop was there, and that was
yeah.
like a total highlight. They sang a duet together. It was amazing.
Like Snoop is super cool when he's in that element. Like when he's in that element, like he's cool, laid back. When he's in the element with our culture, like that's when the real Snoop come out and it becomes a whole different thing. Like it's those concerts are crazy, and I'll just be like, "Yeah, let's not do this."
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. Let's get back to your list. Yeah, the next one I see on here is "Fire" by the Pointer Sisters. Why
Yeah,
Fire?
yeah. I mean, there is just something dead sexy about that song. Like, it
Yeah,
is so seductive, and it's just the way they harmonize, their beautiful voices, that kind of 80s sound to it, the
yeah.
lyrics, everything. It's magic, and it actually a Bruce Springsteen song, so it was written
Oh yeah,
by Springsteen, and you once you know that, you can certainly hear him in the lyrics, but they took his song and they made it sound so Pointer Sisters, and,
yeah.
you can just feel the big shoulder pads and the great hair and the 80s just kind of explode from it. And again, it's another one of those songs that you can't not sing along to.
Okay, okay. Your next one on here was kind of a throw off for me. "Good Feeling" by Flow Rider.
I
I've
know, right?
never heard anybody put Flow Rider in their top 10. So so you
Just to be clear, Flo
gotta
Rida
explain
is
that
not
for me.
a favorite artist of mine. It's just this particular song. There's something about it that just pumps me up. And I remember a few years ago when it came out, one, you hear Etta
Don't
James being
don't say
sampled.
few. Don't say few. It was like a decade ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Don't say don't say few like this song is recent. It was like a decade ago. This song
I was trying to put something current in my list.
is not current.
Yeah, it's old, it's old. So, like, I remember when it first came out, I was working this job that I hated, and I would
Yeah,
drive to work every day, and that Sunday night feeling of, "Oh my gosh, I've got to go and do this horrible job that I hate." And
yeah.
I remember this song came out, and it just made me feel good. There's just something so upbeat about it. And so I used to play it every day on my way to work, and it was like my pump up song. And
Yeah.
it's so bad it's good. It did exactly what I needed it to do. It's not a musical masterpiece. There's no magic about it.
No.
It's not even that good, but it hit me in a way that just lifted me up, and it's
Yeah.
exactly what I needed at that moment, and I'm all about energy, and so for me, that song is about the energy rather than the artistry.
Okay. Okay. R- Red Rooster by Howling Wolf. Like, I don't know too many people who even know who Howling Wolf is, so that's impressive. Um, but why this song?
So my dad loves blues. Like he's a massive blues fan. And so I grew up listening to Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry and all those iconic artists, Little
Yeah.
Walter. And I love Howlin' Wolf.
Yeah.
There was something so
The rasp,
extra about him.
the
Yeah,
rasp
like
in his voice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just
You
his
hear it all the time.
presence, like, he had such an intensity. You watch him on stage and,
Big
man, it
man.
would have been incredible to see him live. He was so,
He's a
so
big
cool.
he was a big man. He was a big man.
He was.
Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy to me because like a lot of my buddies didn't know who he was until Cadillac Records. Like when that movie came
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, they was like, man, they was like, Cedric, you listen to blues, you know how? I was like, yes, bro. I know Howling Wolf. I know Muddy. I know Lil Walter. I was like, I know Etta. I know
Ye
Chuck. I was like, I listen to
yeah.
all of them, bro. I was like, I've known them since forever. I was like, I grew up on it. I was like, my grandfather got me in trouble in kindergarten so much because I knew every word to my dingaling in like kindergarten. And I got my buddies I got my buddies to sing the My Dingling part. So I'd be in school and I'd be like, when I was a little bitty boy, my grandmother bought me a cute little toy. Silver bells hanging from a string. She told me it was my ding-a-ling-a-ling. Oh my. And then you hear my friends in the background, they'd be like, ding-a-ling. And we would just be walking up and down the hall saying that. I'm like, oh my dang-a-lang, oh my dang-a-lang, I want to play with my dang-a-lang. And like my teacher is just looking at me like pissed off. And I'm just like, what? I don't know what's wrong. What? I'm
This
like,
song
how am
is
I
so
not
great.
supposed to sing this song? I was like, it's hilarious to me. I don't know what he's talking about at 5 years old. I was like, it's just hilarious.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, I love Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry
yeah,
is definitely part of my core memory from when I was really small. And my husband and I, a few years ago, just before the world closed down for COVID,
yeah,
we'd come over to the States and we went and did a tour of Chess Recording Studios in
yeah,
Chicago. And we were so lucky. It was just perfect timing that there was no one else on the tour. So we just got this private tour with this really great guide who just knew
yeah,
everything there was to know. And we sat in the original Studio A, and he played over the original sound system, the original mic that Etta sang
yeah,
into at last, and,
yeah.
I remember just weeping. I was just so overcome by
Mm,
hearing those sounds in that room where it was created, and so I knew I had to pick a chess performer to be in my
yeah,
top 10. I just couldn't quite pick who, and so I went with Howlin' Wolf because
yeah,
he's just so iconic, like, just so
yeah.
amazing, and,
He
yeah.
he's great. If I had to pick one, I would have picked Muddy, uh,
Yeah,
Muddy or Little Walter. Like I listen to both of them a lot,
yeah,
especially Muddy. I listen to Muddy a lot, and but
I love that.
that. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, huh. It's like, huh. I was like, not many people know Howling Wolf, so that's impressive. Islands in the Stream by Kenny and Dolly. What is that about?
Very similar genre to Howlin' Wolf, right
Yeah.
along the same lines. I love this song. You can't listen to this song and not be happy. It's just such a cute 80s duet. But what I love about it is you can kind of hear their friendship in the song, right? They
Yeah.
were really, really good friends. And when that song was recorded, Kenny was actually singing it on his own. Barry Gibb, who from the Bee Gees, who actually wrote the song, was producing it with Kenny, and they just they almost gave up on the song because
Yeah.
they just couldn't get it to sound right. And they said, it should be a duet. We need to get Dolly Parton in. And she was actually in the building at the time. And so she just came into the studio, they learnt the song together and they sang it. And it's just so catchy and it's adorable and it's corny. And you can see, Kenny with his daggy dad beard and Dolly with her beautiful big wig on. And
Yeah.
it's adorable, but it's actually a really sweet love song as well. When you listen to the lyrics, it's really, you can
Yeah.
hear that it's been written by Barry Gibb. And I actually loved it so much when I was a little kid that when I grew up and got married, it was the first dance at our wedding, and everyone
Okay.
flocked onto the floor because it's fun. It's a karaoke song. It's so
Yeah.
good. And
Yes.
part of the reason why it's made my top 10 list is um, right before Kenny Rogers passed away, he did a farewell tour called Farewell to the Gambler. And I was in Nashville for that show. And I ran into a really nice man in Nashville who actually gave us tickets to sit in his private box for that show.
Wow.
And so we could see the front of the stage, but we could also see backstage. And so at the end of the show, Kenny and Dolly sang Islands in the Stream together, and then they walked off stage, and I could see them behind the stage, and they were actually hugging each other.
Yeah.
And it was a private moment and it was a special moment. It was something that I got to see. And later on, I realized that was probably the last time that they ever performed together and probably
Yeah.
the last time that they hugged backstage. And so, there's something about that song that connects that for me. And it was just a really incredible moment.
That's awesome. That's a great story. That's a great story. Yeah. I'm very happy that you said big wig when you said Dolly Parton because I thought you were going to say something else. So glad
I
you
know
did.
she has really long nails.
Yeah, yeah, very, very long nails. Yeah. I'm glad you said big wig. Okay, so last song is Hello
Hello,
Darling
darling.
by Conway Twitty. Why? So, like, why?
Why not? It's amazing.
Conway Twitty. Hello, darling.
Exactly.
That song, man. Well,
It's
that's
so daggy, it's amazing. So my nan, who is probably or was my favorite person in the entire universe, she was just an incredible woman who I spent so much time with growing up, and she was my
yeah,
absolute role model. She used to listen to Conway Twitty and she just loved him. He just made her swoon because,
yeah.
he was old lady sexy, right? In his day, and she just
Nobody
loved
sexy.
him. He is fire.
He was nobody sexy. there's a,
You listen
there's a
to the voice,
there's a lot
listen
of
to the growl in
artists.
the voice. It's
Man,
so good.
there's a lot of artists in the world where I'm like, this just shows me that like money is the biggest attractive quality because I'm like some of y'all I'm just looking at them like, bruh. Like, and, and like and that's not even to say like I'm a good looking guy. I'm just saying like when I see some people like I had a friend in college, she said we were talking about some guy and she was like, oh, I would date him in a heartbeat. I was like, really? Really? I was like, would you date him or for the money? She was like, oh, definitely the money. She was like, he's not attractive. I was like, I
At
respect
least
it.
she's
I was like, I
honest.
respect it. I was like, I respect the truth there. I was like, she was like, yeah, he's not attractive at all. I was like, I respect it. I respect it.
What I love about Conway is he didn't let his looks get in the way. He just had that sexy persona, right? Like he sang really sultry songs and he had this gritty voice and it was deep and it was just cool. And my nan loved him. And so when I hear this song, it just takes me back to being a little kid and listening to my nan singing along and tapping her feet to the record.
Yeah.
And I love it too. I absolutely love Conway Twitty. And if you kind of close your eyes and just listen to the words and listen to the way he sings, he's actually an incredible musician.
Yeah. No, like, hello. Darling.
I know.
Yes.
You're going to take my word for it.
Oh man. Oh Conway. Okay. So We got your 10, and that was a great 10. I'm gonna say mine quick because this is episode for you, but I know I'm gonna get questions about my 10 from people. They're gonna be like, well, what were your
Yeah.
10? Yeah, um, so my 10, like I grew up in that soul era. I grew up in the R&B era. I still think I grew up in like the best generation of music, like the late 80s, 90s. I feel like that was the best, like early 2000s. That 20-year period was like the best time for music. Like you had real musicians, you had people that could really play instruments, you had people that could really sing. There wasn't augmentation to the voice. You had real writers who were writing about real things. I tell my buddies all the time because it's always a debate who's better, the writer or the singer, and I'm like, it's a cohesive marriage, but it's definitely the writer. I was like, because the writer, I was like, singers are great, but a lot of singers are just singers. They can't write anything. I was like, writers can write stuff that make you feel like you hear it and you're like, man, they were going through it. Like that is pain. But you gotta have the best singer to match that pain. And that singer
For
has to be able
sure.
to push that pain out. And so I think in that 20-year period, we had a great cohesive marriage of writers who could write painful songs and singers who could express that pain. Um, and so my top 10 would be one would be Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding. Um, that's one of my favorite songs of all time. Um, Sitting on the Dock is just a classic. It's great. Um,
Iconic.
yeah,
Totally iconic.
uh, A Change is Gonna Come by Sam Cooke. That's
Yeah.
that's gonna be on the list. Um, my country music in me, like George Strait, She'll Leave You with a Smile. That was the first really like George Strait song I fell in love with. And I remember I was in like fourth grade and our history teacher played country music all the time. And that song came on and I just started singing it. And he like stopped class and he was like, Cedric, you know this song? Because I was the only black kid in the school. So he was like, you know this song? And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
He was like, sing away. He was like, sing away, son. I was like, so yeah, She'll Leave You with a Smile by George. He's on there. Um, so my boy bands, I don't really call them boy bands. I don't like the name boy bands. That sounds weird, but but I grew up on New Edition. So like Can You Stand the Rain by New Edition? That's gonna be on there. Boys to Men, Doing Just Fine. That's gonna be on there because that's a song where like it's just, you can feel the pain in that song. Like
Mm,
he's doing just fine. I'm doing just fine without you. Like it's a great song.
yeah.
Um,
That's a great choice.
yeah, and then I always have my hip hop in there. Like Biggie, to me, Biggie is the goat of all rappers. Like I understand what other people say, but like I love Biggie. Like Biggie and Andre 3000 are my favorite rappers of all time. But Biggie, man, I can't pick one song from Biggie. I would say anything from Biggie. Like you can put anything on from Biggie. I'm gonna know it word for word, and I'm gonna like anything from Biggie. And then Andre, I liked Andre when they did Idlewild, and then the speaker box where they split it and they had their own solo albums, but they put it out as a group.
Mm,
And so like Prototype by Andre 3000 is one of my favorite songs of all time. Prototype, and then She Lives in My Lap. That's another one. Like, and he did that on Idlewild, and it was basically talking about like his future wife dying in his lap, and that was his last memory of her. So she lives in his lap in his mind, and like that was the song, and it's a great song, and Andre is just he's fantastic. Um, I'm not a big fan of this new era of music. There's some guys in it that I really listen to that I enjoy. Larry June is a new guy that I really listen to and I enjoy. Um, country music, there's not many new country artists I like because they're starting to dip into hip hop and pop. And I'm like, that's not what country music is. It's never been that. Like, if you want to do that, go do that. Like, just country music is a different thing.
And
Um,
like you said, with you can be a great singer, but without great words, without
yeah,
amazing lyrics behind you, songs can be pretty meaningless. And I
yeah,
think that's what I find in a lot of new country artists, just really
yeah.
boring, cliched kind of stories about their
Same
truck
thing.
or short
Yeah.
shorts or boots or dogs or,
Uh,
nothing that really challenges you to think differently or feel differently.
like when like back to George, like man, like Cheyenne. It's a great song by George. Um, Easy Come, Easy Go. Like great song. Like Honky Tonkville, that entire album is fantastic. Like Desperately is a great song as far as it goes. Tell Me Something Wrong About Tulsa. Like being from Tulsa, like that was a great song. But like I always ask my buddies all the time, like my buddies that listen to country music, I'm like, what part of Tulsa was George in? Because I'm trying to go to that area. Because I don't I was like, it's like that. That's not the area of Tulsa that we know. Like, I'm like, what part of Tulsa was George in? Like, what era was this? Was he here in the 80s? Like, what? It's like, what part of Tulsa is he talking about? But it's yeah, like country music now is just it's hard for me to listen to. Like Tennessee Whiskey by Chris
Stapleton.
Stapleton is a great song, but it's a great song because it's an Etta James song. Like it's an Etta James song, and it's a throwback country song from the
And
80s.
George Jones recorded
Uh,
it as
yeah.
well. Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
it samples Etta James at last, and then it George Jones is word for word for George Jones. Everybody thinks it's original, and even Chris has said it. He's like, no, it's George Jones and Etta James. Like it is, but it's like everybody's like, oh, this is great. And I'm like, yeah, I like it. I love his soul that he put into it, but it's great because of the two before him. Like that was a
yeah,
beautiful
it's a
marriage.
really beautiful
Yeah,
homage, but yeah, it's not an original song, but
yeah,
I think, that can be really nice and really
oh
refreshing
yeah,
to hear fresh takes on things.
yeah,
I definitely like Stapleton. I've seen him live a few times, and, he's an incredible performer and,
yeah, yeah. He's great.
really soulful.
Yeah,
But yeah, I kind of sit him more in Americana than country.
yeah, and it's weird. It's very weird when you sit on there. But we were talking about this the other day, and I'm gonna ask you this question. I feel like there's some genres of music, and some not genres, just artists that their music should never be touched. You should never do a cover to it. You should never do an homage to it. You should never put it out as your own. Like,
Sacred. Yeah,
yeah. And I feel like the Temptations are that on that level. I feel
agreed.
like Michael Jackson is at that level. I feel like
Agreed.
Prince is on that level.
Totally
Um,
agree.
Whitney Houston is on that level.
Yeah.
Um, but when I hear people do renditions of their song, it just irks me. Like I don't know how you
I'm
feel
gonna
about
put one
that.
asterisk on that because I absolutely agree.
Yeah,
But I saw, Gladys Knight a few years ago,
mhm,
and she sang Purple Rain at her
yeah,
show, and it was spectacular. I mean, that woman can sing, and
yeah,
she brings it,
but that's
and
different. She's showing
yeah,
homage at her
yeah,
show. She ain't putting
yeah.
Purple Rain out as her own song.
Well, Etta
It's a
James
prophet.
actually released it, and
Yeah.
whoo, oh my gosh, you gotta listen to that. It's good. It
It
is
hurts
good.
me. It hurts me because like I got into this with my little brother the other day because we were talking about artists. Because I was watching something, Great Taste by All Deaf, and they were doing a debate, and it was between Michael Jackson and Beyonce. And I was like, that's not a debate.
Yeah,
I was like, Michael is global.
yeah,
I was like, I'm in Japan. I was like, I can say Michael Jackson. They know immediately who I'm talking about. I say Beyonce, they're like, who? They're like,
yeah,
like, I was like, Michael is global. That's not a debate. I was like, the debate is Michael or Prince? That's the debate. I was like,
Yeah.
because I was like, Michael is global, but Prince is just better. And me and my little
Mm.
brother got into this, and I was like, he's like, what makes Prince better? I was like, bro, I was like, I love Mike. I love him to death. Um, I was like, what he did, I was like, he was one of those artists that could bring out the pain. I was like, there's not a Michael Jackson song that I'm really not a big fan of. I was like, he could bring out the pain when he sang. I was like, but he didn't write none of his stuff. I was like, Barry Gordy wrote a lot of his stuff. Smokey Robinson wrote a lot of his stuff. Quincy Jones wrote a lot of his stuff. R. Kelly wrote
Yep.
a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
Justin Timberlake even wrote for Michael Jackson. Um, I was like, Prince wrote everything. I was like, he wrote all his songs. He played all his instruments. He produced all his records. He owns all his masters. I was like,
Yeah.
Prince could
He was
do
a
it
savant.
all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that takes it to another level. That shows me just how great of a musician you are when
And
you
he
can literally
had such
it.
creative output that there are still thousands of unreleased Prince
Yeah.
songs because he just produced
It's
every
just
day of his life. He just was like this channel for art that just was continuously on tap. Whereas
it's
I
just
think Michael
wow.
Jackson, he was an innovator.
Oh yeah.
He was an incredible innovator and he changed the landscape of
Yeah.
music, and that was amazing. But yeah, in terms of artistry, I
Yeah.
think Prince every day, all
Yeah.
day, every day. Yeah.
And like that's what I told my little brother. I was like, bro, I was like, we think about music differently. I was like, you think about music as the artist and who's putting it out. I was like, I think of music as the soul of it. I was like, I think of it as a musician. I was like, I can't call you a musician if you don't play an instrument. I was like, you got to be able to play an instrument. I was like, just because you can sing, I was like, there's a lot of people that can sing. I was like, I can play to anybody in the studio and teach them how to sing. I was like, you know how hard it is to teach somebody to play instruments? I was like, it's crazy. I was like, when Prince can walk out on the stage with Guns and Roses and play better than Slash, I was like, I was like, I didn't even know Prince could play that well. I was like, he's sitting over here making Slash look like a
Oh,
basic
he was
guitar player.
amazing. Yeah.
And I was like, and then he could pull out the saxophone, then he could jump on the piano, I was like, Prince could do everything. I was like, that is the debate. The debate is Michael and Prince. It will never be Michael and Beyonce. Like Beyonce, like I tell my buddies all the time, I was
She
like,
is a team effort. She is
she
a collaboration of incredibly talented people, and
yes,
she, of course, is talented herself, but
extremely.
she is not a standalone artist. She
Nah,
has a team of
yeah.
people.
And I told my buddies all the time, I was like, bro, I was like, Beyonce's big in America. I was like, in America. I was like, that's about it. I was I was like, you can't, I was like, there's nowhere you can go in the world unless you going into the Amazon forest with people who ain't never heard music. I was like, and they probably still know who Michael Jackson is. I was like, I was like, they'd have probably heard birds in the trees chirping Michael Jackson songs. I was like, Michael is global. Like, I was like, Prince is global. I was like, people know Prince. I was like, when you reach that far, that is the change. And I was like, that's not a debate to me. And so like that was when I was watching that, that was frustrating. I was like, this isn't a legit debate. I was like, because I was like, defending Beyonce. They're like, well, Beyonce was a better singer than Mike. And I'm like, what? I'm like,
Yeah,
what? Like what?
okay.
Like, like what? Hold up, bro. Like, what you
Look,
talking about?
Beyonce's cool, like, she's
She's
talented, she's very
amazing.
cool,
She's so talented. I don't want anybody
but
from the Beehive to get on me because her Beehive is crazy. So, Beehive
yeah,
people,
like,
like,
let's not upset the Beyonce
understand. Yeah,
fans. Let's not do that.
understand. Beyonce is great, but she is not
Yeah.
in comparison to Mike or Prince. Like, she's not.
I'm with you there. And
Uh,
you know what? Like, speaking of artists who can kind of do everything, Dolly
yeah,
Parton's the same, right? She
yeah,
comes out on stage and she can play slide guitar, saxophone, banjo.
yeah,
She's like absolutely incredible. And
yeah.
I feel a bit the same way about her music just leave it alone. She
Yeah,
nailed it.
yeah,
You can't add anything to it. You hear people every few years release an edition of Jolene or I Will
yeah,
Always Love It. Like, just leave it. It's
yeah.
perfect. It's fine.
Like that's definitely a thing. Okay, so the last question is songs that make you happy, sad, depressed, overjoyed, or just filled with emotion. Um, before I get this to you, because I'm gonna let you end the episode, I'm gonna just give my 3 songs that do that for me. Okay. The song that makes me the most happy, I don't really have a song that really makes me like overjoyed, happy. Like there's songs where I'm like, this is hilarious, or like this is a fun song. Like, and those artists are like Lil Dicky, um, uh, The Lonely Island, The Lonely Island, with Adam Sandberg. Like all their songs are hilarious to me. Any songs that are like parodies, um, like Weird Al Yankovic, like when he came out with Because I'm Fat, like I was like, this is hilarious.
Eat it.
I was like that song was hilarious. And then he did one to he like spoofed R. Kelly's Trapped in the Closet. It was called Trapped in the Drive Through. I laughed the entire 9 minutes of that song. I was like, this song is hilarious. Um Songs that make me sad. Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley. Really make
That's a Leonard Cohen song.
Yeah, like I love Leonard Cohen. His version didn't touch me like Jeff Buckley's.
Mm.
Um, and I think that's a lot like people like my mentor, my pastor who passed away a couple years ago. He loved the Leonard Cohen version. He hadn't really listened to the Jeff Buckley version until I showed him the Jeff Buckley version, and then he was like, "Okay, I'll give you it. This is great. This is great."
Yeah.
And so like that's one of the songs that really gets me sad and really gets me depressed. Um Creep by Radiohead.
Radio.
Like that song is that is something. And then Heaven Can Wait by Michael Jackson. Like that chorus, like tell the angels no, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave my baby alone. He's like, heaven can wait because I don't want to go until I can go with you. Like that song is just ridiculous. And then I can't name the gospel song that makes me overjoyed or filled with emotion because I grew up on gospel. So there's just so many gospel songs that I could list. Like I can't give you one, but just gospel music and period, like gets me overjoyed and just full of emotion. Um, because they're always just singing about grace and love and pain and bewilderment, and it's great to listen to it. Now your song, "We Are the World," I'm gonna let you explain that because the
I
culture we say something else about that song because you can even see it on the main character's face when he's recording that song. Like Mike come in there singing, and then everybody else came in. He's like,
So
"Oh,
the reason I love this song is because it's such a massive collaboration, right? Of just all the biggest stars in the world at the time. And imagine being in that room. Like that would be they had a sign on the door that was check your ego at the door, right? Because imagine wrangling all those egos that were walking into that room. So it's
Mike
not the
did
song
not."
itself so much. Like it's a really hooky song and I
I was
love it and I'll sing it every time it comes on.
like,
But
Mike
there's
did
something
not
about
check
the
his ego.
alchemy. No, he did not.
He did not. Mike was like,
He
y'all trash. He's like, why y'all got me in here, man? They suck. What you do?
You know what though? I think Quincy Jones wrangled them all together in this amazing way. And
He
Lionel
wrangled
Richie was
Mike.
walking around being so diplomatic. Like you could see he was just sweating on it. He was so
Oh
worried that
man.
it was all going to go wrong. And you could see there was little moments where it did go wrong. Like Waylon Jennings stormed out of the recording halfway through. And you know, Bob Dylan, when he went to sing his part, he is such an introvert and he's so used to recording in his own little bubble that he had no idea how the heck to make it happen in a room full of other people. And so when he went to record, no sound was coming out of his mouth. And so Stevie Wonder dragged him over to the piano and sang his part to him, sounding more like Bob Dylan than Bob Dylan does. And so Bob Dylan just copied that, and that's what got recorded. So I just love that moment in music history because it was done in such a covert way.
Yeah.
It was recorded after the American Music Awards. They had to get all these big stars together in this little studio in Beverly Hills that was owned by Kenny Rogers. And they recorded all night, and I just would have loved to have been a fly on the wall seeing that unfold.
Man, like we crack so many jokes about that song because it is just like you can see the frustration in Mike's face.
Yeah,
You can see it in Stevie. Like that
yeah,
both of them are just like bruh, like why y'all do this? Like
yeah, but you know
like
what?
that
They
it,
all came from Motown, right?
yeah,
Which the way that they recorded at Motown was it was like a production line. So
yeah,
Motown was kind of a democracy where they would all sit around and pitch songs to each other, and you had to have group approval to record
yeah,
things. And so it was this amazing collaborative effort, and the Funk Brothers put the sound behind it, and everyone was just so professional because it was that production line. It was
yeah,
expected to be a manufacturing system. And so to see artists come up against, you know, really different ways of creating art was really funny. Like you could see Ray Charles was
yeah,
like, this is not hard to sing. Let me just belt it right out.
yeah,
And, then other people, like you could see Huey Lewis was absolutely terrified to record his part because he just felt so inferior in that room. And I love that.
yeah.
It's so cool.
And like we talk, like when we're talking about it, I'm like, bro, I was like, I know I can see the frustration on Mike's face. Like I was like, I knew that Mike respected Quincy. He respected Stevie. He respected Ray. I don't think he respected anyone else in that room when it came.
Maybe Lionel.
Maybe Lionel, maybe, and that's a reach with Lionel. I was like, but I was like, Mike knew he was the top dude. And
Yeah.
so, like, when he's in there and you can see him, like, he'll sing a part and it's just on point and it's beautiful and it's notched. And then Stevie will sing a part and it's on point and it's beautiful. And Ray will sing a part and it's on point and it's beautiful. And then you'll have somebody like Cyndi Lauper come up and they're just like, just like they're like, now we got to do this again. Like, come on, bro. I was like, I don't
At one
think,
stage, they had to stop the recording because she was moving her arms and she was
yeah,
wearing plastic bangles all down her arms, and it was recording. And yeah, but like, what an amazing moment in history. When would you ever bring that many talented big stars all
never
together ever
again.
again? Doesn't
Never again.
happen. It
It
does
won't
not
ever
happen.
happen again because
Exactly. I
the
mean,
way
Diana
artists
Ross
are
was in
now,
the room and she only played a small part.
yeah, I was like, the way artists are now, artists would never agree to that. Like, I'm still stunned they got Mike to agree to that because Mike was
He
just,
wrote it.
yeah, and like Mike, I love Mike, but Mike was, I'm a solo guy. And this is like he was tired of the group stuff. He was tired of group stuff. So like I like when we talk about that song, it's like Mike wrote it and then Mike was there. It was like Barry had to be talking to Mike because of the respect that Mike had for Barry Gordy. Like Barry had to say something to Mike because that was
Well,
very,
Smokey Robinson was in the room, and,
yeah,
like, obviously, Smokey had been a mentor for him, and
yeah,
Diana Ross had been a mentor, so you can definitely see that there was that Motown history in the
yeah.
room, and I think there was definite respect for that.
And like Mike being such a respectful person to those people that brought him in, like I was like, I feel like that's the only way they got him to do that because I think after like the first hour, Mike was probably like, "Hey man, I'm ready to go." Like I'm just going to record my part and y'all use it, and then I'm bouncing. This is ridiculous. Oh man. But that is great. That's great. That's a great thing to end off on. And so I'm so happy that you were able to be on this episode today. I'm gonna get you out of here because I know you got stuff to do today. Um, and it was just fun. Is there anything else you want to say before we close out the episode?
No, it's been so great chatting with you. I've really enjoyed it. And I love that your list was actually not that dissimilar to mine. You know, we definitely had crossover artists that we like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was great to go through them all.
Oh yeah, it's always fun, man. And thanks again to everyone who's listened to the episode. This has been Conversing Over Drinks with your host Cedric Turner and our special guest Soph Stafford. And we're gonna have clips coming out very soon on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all things like that. And the episode will be available on YouTube and anywhere else that you get your podcast episodes from. Once again, thank you so much for being on the episode today with us. And thank you again for listening to all the fans out there. This has been Conversing Over Drinks with your host, Cedric Turner. Peace. I'm out.